Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back. So it is mid, actually we're at the end of August and it is still extremely hot. This is really the part of the year where we don't do much growing. Um, as far as active growing, might be building new beds, getting things ready for stuff like that. Phone's still overheating, but we're gonna go back to time uh, video making. It's been a struggle this year. I've had some pest issues as dry as it's been, and in one of my previous videos, a couple of videos ago, um, I used some DE, some diatomaceous earth, to help get some of the wasps and grasshoppers under control. I know that that's not the best thing to use in that case. But it was a very calculated response. It wasn't something that I just went out and did because, hey, I've got DE. No, I actually went and bought it because I haven't purchased DE. I think I ran out like 2016 or something like that because I haven't used it in so long. Uh, and in most cases, you don't need it. But these past 3 years, I've had a really bad problem with grasshoppers, and I think that's due to drought. Um, and there just wasn't much biology in the garden to take care of those for me. Now, well, I've spent quite a bit of money trying to get the right biology in the garden, um, and just taking steps to build the life, make sure that there are plenty of predators as well as prey. I've never taken that knee-jerk reaction type approach to gardening when you see if I have pests on one plant, that one plant is the sacrificial lamb. But there are cases where things like grasshoppers can get very problematic because they're not like aphids. They'll hop 6 feet over to this other plant, devour it, then hop over 6 feet to another plant, devour it, and it's just a very, very quick process, and they can absolutely annihilate a garden in no time if left unchecked. So I don't immediately reach for any sort of control in that in the instance of aphids on one or two plants. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when I'm losing a lot of damage from one pest. But even in that case, a biological control makes more sense when it can be accomplished. And I was just drawing a blank because I couldn't think of anything other than birds that would take care of a grasshopper infestation. I don't really have a lot of birds in my garden for the most part, unless they're in the trees, in my fruit trees, devouring my fruit, which is what happened to all of my peaches. My peaches are gone. I'm not going to get, it's another year of no peaches. That's having wrapped screen door mesh around each fruit that I had left. I had three left. Birds got to them. Yeah, I just couldn't figure out why they weren't taking care of the grasshoppers for me. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how I went about applying the DE because, like I said, it was a very calculated effort. So, in this part of the year, um, it's entirely too hot for bees to be out at the time that I applied that DE. It was probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was very late, and there weren't any bees out. So, because it's so hot, I have to water about every 2 days, well, every other day. So diatomaceous earth is basically rendered useless once it becomes wet. So having put it on in the hottest part of the day when the bees aren't out, and then having to basically wash it off the very next day, there wasn't much chance of harming any bees. But there was a chance that maybe some of the praying mantis that I put out several years ago would become, maybe damaged. Um, Maybe some of their populations might have suffered, but they're still in my garden. I watered that night, so it wasn't even on for the morning. But what I did was I left my water on intentionally to water overnight. It was very dry, like I said. We haven't had any rainfall in probably 2 months. I left that water running. My little hand sprayer just kind of hooked it onto my lawnmower, and just left it overnight. Well, I have a leaky spigot, and I don't know how much effect the diatomaceous earth was, but not having many birds in the garden for the entire season, I came out that next morning and there were birds everywhere because of that leaky spigot. It was the water that had brought the birds in, and I haven't seen a single grasshopper since. My kale is doing much better. It was eaten all just, it was just suffering very badly. Kale typically, I mean, it'll bounce back if you do have a big infestation of anything. They're doing much better now when they weren't earlier. Like I said, just grasshoppers were just annihilating them, and my cucumbers and peppers, and doing quite a bit of damage to my tomatoes. Just everything was getting eaten up. But leaving that water on overnight and then having that uh, flow of fresh water really brought in a lot of birds, and well, it kind of solved my grasshopper problem. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I learned something very valuable there. Now I've heard that using a bird bath in your garden will bring in birds, but just a stagnant bird bath doesn't seem to work here, or not for more than a day, I guess. But if you have that water moving, so if you can get a cheap pump off of Amazon, that might be the answer for you, and you could probably just set that down in a regular bird bath and have that cycling water and just kind of keeping it moving. That would probably bring in more birds. I think it's the sound maybe that attracts them more than just having a bowl of water sitting out. Definitely fun to learn. Um, and now I know that even for grasshopper infestations, I don't need to reach for DE. I still got a big box of it, so I mean it's gonna be here just in case. I can't think of any other um, anything else that it would really be beneficial for. But if I need it, I got it. I will certainly keep in mind that there are other ways and search for those ways moving forward. But definitely an interesting learning experience. So as far as the biology in my garden, like I said, I've introduced praying mantis uh, that I didn't have in my garden prior to about 5 years ago, and every year since they have come back. So I know that they're reproducing, they're acclimatizing, they're handling this climate well. I've had Texas spiny lizard, which is one of my favorite things in the garden. I love those guys. I actually rescued one from my buddy's front yard. A cat had got its tail. I'm not sure if those are lizards that can regenerate a tail or not. I think they can, but I'm not positive. But I brought that guy out, put him in the garden, and never saw him again. Still haven't seen him, but I'm just gonna assume he's out here. I did have one run from the trash can in my front yard to right under me where I was standing on my front porch. It ran under me and under the house. Scared the hell out of me. I'm gonna be honest, because I didn't know what it was, and they are fast. I'm talking about these guys are lightning fast, and he darted from the trash can to under me, and it's probably a good 20, 30 feet in less than 2 seconds. Yeah, I mean that's how fast they are. And yeah, so I love those guys. They're absolute, big hunters in the garden. And like I said, I was trying to get rid of the wasps because they were eating all of my swallowtail butterfly larvae. So that's kind of one of those things that I think you pick and choose what you want, and wasps just aren't beneficial enough for me. I've never seen them eat a hornworm. Uh, don't see them eating too many cutworms, but they definitely love my butterfly larva, and I prefer the butterflies over the wasps. So that's just kind of one of those things that you got to do it whether you want to or not. You got to pick a side. I mean, or you can just let them battle it out. But the butterflies are going to lose every time on that one. Even moving my tree over here where there weren't so many of the wasps still, I mean, the butterflies came back, laid some more eggs after they ate the first round of larvae, and they came back and ate the others. So I've got to control those guys. There, and I don't know if the birds are working on them too. I haven't seen quite as many, but there's still plenty. And it's just kind of one of those things that you got to eat it, or they're gonna eat everything in your garden. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in particular. Most of the time, I can control pests by not planting out of season. But in summer, in Texas, everything's so dry. The grasshoppers just go batshit crazy. Um, and it's just kind of one of those things that we got to keep under control. It's probably 100 degrees still at 9 o'clock at night. Whew. I don't know why people keep moving to Texas. What are y'all thinking? Like what? Like seriously, what are y'all thinking? Because this place is absolutely hell. Anyway, so that's all I got, guys. I just wanted to talk real quick about the biology in the garden, and the ways that I, kind of employ them to handle most of the dirty work. Like I said, sometimes you just don't have the biology there to take care of a particular pest. So, you know, yeah, sometimes we reach for the wrong thing. And could there have been some collateral damage? Absolutely. I don't think that's the case. Like I said, there's still plenty of life. I've still got plenty of bees that, even, well, sometimes a little bit later in the afternoon. I've seen bees in my front yard where I've got some of my house plants. I'm not really sure what exactly they're doing up there other than drinking water and trying to make the trip back home, maybe. I'm not sure. There may be a hive somewhere in the front that I don't know about. That'd be interesting to find, though. Y'all, if you like the video, like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. It helps me out a great deal. And as soon as the temperatures break, I will have some more content for you guys because fall and winter are definitely much more pleasant in the garden. So yeah, we'll talk about some of that in the next video. Y'all, take care.